Schumer to Orleans County.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. Today, we're here to talk about a very serious problem. With me are John Cardone, our Orleans County District Attorney, Paul Pettit, Public Health Director of Genesee and Orleans County Health Departments. We're here to talk about one of the biggest problems we face in this area, running from in western New York in the Rochester Finger Lakes area, and that is the scourge of fentanyl. Fentanyl is a deadly poison. It is 50 to 100 times more deadly than heroin, and it has caused devastation from one end of this country to the other. In fact, last year, over 106,000 people died of fentanyl overdoses, and young people, 18 to 35, the largest cause of death is now fentanyl overdoses, or overdoses from drugs, most of which is fentanyl. That's more than auto accidents, that's more than anything else. So I have, as you know, been fighting really hard this scourge, but now we have a new tool that's about to go into effect. If we can pass this legislation, that will help. But let me give you some statistics, okay? Orleans County we're here in Orleans County, it has seen the devastation fentanyl can have. Because of our great law enforcement people in this county, and we thank them all for their service, both on the police and sheriff and prosecution side. There have been several drug busts this year alone in this county, where law enforcement seized $9 million worth of illegal drugs, including over 100 fentanyl pills. But they're disguised as other drugs. Fentanyl can be added to heroin, to OxyContin, to methamphetamine. It makes it much more deadly. These evil drug dealers who prey on us. And here is the good news. The Fend Off Fentanyl Act, which I passed in the defense bill in the Senate, gives us real chance to go after these drugs, because we give the president emergency powers to stop the flow of fentanyl from overseas. Fentanyl doesn't start here in the United States. It comes from precursor drugs that are made in China, and these Chinese companies ship them to Mexico, where they're refined into fentanyl, and they cross our borders. This bill gives the president power to go after. As I said, the Chinese government knows about these companies that make the precursor fentanyl drugs and does nothing. The Mexican government knows about these gangs and others that take these drugs and make them into fentanyl and send them here and does nothing. But the new legislation, which has passed the Senate overwhelmingly and bipartisan, will stop this, because it gives the president emergency powers to impose real tough economic sanctions on China and on Mexico unless they stop these drugs. For once, we can stop them at the source. Our law enforcement does a good job, but the fentanyl keeps coming. And the Fend Off Fentanyl Act will really bring a great deal of relief to this. So why am I here today? It's passed the Senate, but it was not in the House. It passed the Senate in what we call a must-pass bill, the Defense Authorization Bill, the bill that pays for our soldiers and our military, NDAA it's called. And I, as majority leader, used my clout as majority leader to get this Fend Off Fentanyl bill into the defense bill, and it passed. It passed the Senate last week. So we must get the House to do the same thing and add it when we have a conference on the defense bill and get it done by September. The bill was bipartisan. It was drafted by Sherrod Brown, a Democrat, and Tim Scott, a Republican, one of Ohio, one of South Carolina, and I put it in the defense bill, help them refine it, and help them get it done. So we now need to finish the job to stop this deadly flow of this awful, awful drug. If the House heeds our call, we can fight deadly fentanyl with something tougher: the declaration of a national emergency, which allows the president to impose sanctions on China, on Mexico, and any other countries that are doing this and sending this fentanyl to us. And so we're fighting to do this. And one more thing I want to mention, because I've talked in Western New York and upstate about this, and that is about progress we have been making in a fight against another terrible drug called xylazine. Xylazine is a skin-rotting drug. It's known on the streets as tranq. It's been spreading in upstate New York. It's been spreading in the nation. It's been found in drugs seized in cases in Orleans and Genesee County beginning in 2019. And finally, the ONDCP of Narcotic and Drug Control has designated xylazine as a threat to the United States, and we passed, under my leadership in the Senate, the Tranq Research Act, which directs the National Institute of Standards to take steps to get rid of xylazine. Xylazine can be used, it's used by some anesthesiologists, veterinarians, as a tranquilizer for large animals, horses and cattle, beef, dairy cows, when they do, operations and stuff on them. But we have to find a way to prevent that from flowing into the hands of drug dealers, and this new act will help do that as well. So we've made some real progress in that area as well. Now I'd like to call on District Attorney Joe Cardone, who does a great job, to share remarks on what the county's doing about it. D.A. Cardone.
Senator, thank you very much, and thank you very much for highlighting this issue. There's no question that opiates and the problem we're having with fentanyl is the greatest crisis, in my judgment, that we have in this country. Since 1990, over 1.75 million people have died from the overdose of these two drugs. That's more people than have died in all the wars this country has ever fought, to put things in perspective. It's more people than have died from COVID. So this is a major crisis, and frankly, it's compromising the future of this country, having killed so many youths. There's not a gram of these drugs that are produced in the United States, not a gram, but it's in every community in this country and causing deaths on a daily basis in every community in this country. So law enforcement has been dealing with this issue for a lot of years now, but frankly, on the local level, it's impossible to defeat this problem. We're just putting our fingers in a dam that is burgeoning and about to explode. The only way that this problem can be fought effectively is on a federal level by stopping the flow of these drugs into our country. I applaud the efforts of the senator in doing that, and let's hope it works, Senator.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, I just want to say our local law enforcement folks should understand this. Does a great job, but it keeps flowing from over our borders. Mr. Cardone does not have jurisdiction in Mexico and China or even in other states when it flows through here. So we need a federal effort.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. And now we have Paul Pettit. He's the Public Health Director not only for Orleans County, where we are, but Genesee County.
Yes, thank you, Senator Schumer, for being here. Appreciate that, and choosing Orleans County to deliver this message. The opioid epidemic is an urgent public health and public safety issue here in Genesee and Orleans County and around the country. Drug overdose deaths are now the leading cause of injury mortality in the United States. In 2021, 106,000 individuals died from drug overdoses in the U.S. 70,000 of those individuals died of synthetic opioids, primarily fentanyl. That's over 70% of all drug overdose deaths that year due to fentanyl and other synthetic drugs. Locally in Genesee and Orleans County, we have seen similar trends. Since 2019, we've had 53 overdose deaths in Genesee County and 23 overdose deaths in Orleans County. 64 of those 76 deaths, or 84%, have involved fentanyl. Stopping fentanyl where it comes from is a major part of our work. But we need to focus also on helping those currently struggling with opioid use disorder. Like many areas around the country, we have an opioid task force here in Genesee, Orleans, and Wyoming counties that works on these issues on a daily basis. Genesee, Orleans, and Orleans and Wyoming counties, our task force has been working over the last 6 years to address this issue. Pre-pandemic, we've had over 400 individuals representing a cross-section of agencies, including public health, mental health, law enforcement, substance use agencies, the faith-based community, and others that have been meeting regularly to address this epidemic in our communities. This dedicated work group is focused on education, data collection, working on access to naloxone, access to care, and other types of focus areas that are hoping to move the needle in a positive direction in our communities. There's a lot of work to be done. A comprehensive approach that involves not only stopping the drugs where they're coming from at the border is extremely important to helping us get where we need to be, but also continuing to work with those in our communities that are struggling with substance use disorder, making sure they have the resources and the ability to get the help that they need. So again, I thank you, Senator Schumer, for being here. Thank you for championing this cause and continuing to support all the efforts that we have underway in our community and communities around New York State to address this epidemic.
Thank you very much.